Hello, Dr. Theodore Henderson with Neuro-Luminance. Today we're going to take a little more personal tact here. Everyone asks me how I ended up where I am. How did I become a doctor? How did I make that choice? And I talk about a little bit about this in my book, Brighter Days Ahead. But for now, let's just give you a quick summary of who I am. So I actually started out having nothing to do with science. I mean, I literally did not take a science course all through high school. I was a musician. All I cared about was jazz. All I cared about was playing. And in college, gears started to shift and things started to change. And I ended up falling in love with science. One of the books I read in college that changed my life was Thomas Kuhn's book, The Structure of Scientific Evolution. And he talks about paradigm shifts. He also talks about the fact that the only way science or medicine changes is if some maverick comes along and shakes up the paradigm. Well, I'm that guy. So when I went into medical school, I went into graduate school, ended up getting a Ph.D. in neurobiology. And what I was doing was shaking up the paradigms. I was doing studies to try and disprove what everyone thought was going on. Sometimes I was right, and sometimes I was wrong. But I kept shaking things up. And so it was sort of natural that, I would go along and finish medical school. I went into radiology. I lasted 1 year as a radiology resident before I was bored out of my mind. No offense to radiologists. So I switched to psychiatry and haven't been bored a day since then, because this is an amazingly developing field. What we think we know about psychiatry, it's all wrong. So I start shaking up the paradigm again. Is serotonin what causes depression? No. Serotonin isn't the problem in depression. That's a bunch of hogwash. In fact, it's degeneration. It's breaking down of circuits in your brain that leads to depression. We've got to turn on neuroplasticity. So this is why I got involved with ketamine, as I discovered ketamine turns on BDNF, turns on neuroplasticity. I'm all in. And then about that same time, I got introduced to the idea of infrared light as a tool that turns on neuroplasticity in the brain. So these have become my passion. I'm also passionate about chronic fatigue syndrome, another paradigm breaker. Most doctors say, chronic fatigue, it's all in their head, they're just lazy. No, it's not. It's a real thing. Someday I'll talk to you more about that. The paradigms keep, having to be broken. We have to evolve. And I think infrared light is one of those things that's really going to change medicine over the next decade. And I want to be part of that. So kind of a quick, here's who Dr. Henderson is. Outside of what I do as a doctor, I'm a dad and a grandfather and a dedicated family man. And my favorite thing to do is get up in the morning and write. And so that's where the papers come from, that's where the books come from, is, this early morning writing sessions. And sometimes the early morning writing session lasts, if I'm lucky, 8-9 hours. But, usually it's fairly short. And with that, keep tuning in, keep asking questions. You got questions, comments, please reach out to me. Dr. Henderson with Neuro-Luminance, signing off.